So much hype for this game.
So much hype. Oh.
There's a lot of good teams in this tournament.
There is,
This
man.
this actually, I think, just to comment about this matchup, it's definitely back and forth. I mean, either comp can win, just a matter of who plays better, I think, from what I've seen anyways.
I love series like that, man. But here we go. The queue is up, and the very first map of this best of 3 series is going to be Nagrand Arena. Alright, welcome to Nagrand Arena. Team Method running that WLS, Smexen on the Warrior, Chanimals on that Warlock, and Sea-Doo on the Restoration Druid going up against Ready, Set, Go, running the God Count, but not with the Holy Paladin. They're running with the Restoration Druid. Greg choosing to choose the Druid instead of the Holy Paladin, but that's amazing. He has the ability to play both confidently. And here we go. The gates have opened. Here we go.
Yep, Smexen trying to peel out to make sure that Chanimals lands his gateway. The gateway is going to get secured. Charging over now onto Spawner God X, just throwing out some early damage. Chanimals trying to get the dots rolling already. Full dots onto Spawner God. The Deep Freeze though onto Sea-Doo. Silence onto Channels. The Master Reflect on the Polymer, but it's going to land in between the Riptides here. Channels and Smexen have to be careful. They still haven't decided on a target just yet. The Fear landed onto Sea-Doo, but a Stormbolt onto Greg Plitz. Smexen taking the aggression over to him, down to 70% already. Full dots are up. The Haunt's going to connect. He's going to go into Bear Farm to try and mitigate some damage. Finally, some damage rolling out onto Chanimals with a bash onto Sea-Doo. Silence onto Chanimals. The Recklessness now being used by Smexen onto the Pilot. Iron Bark to answer that. Deep Freeze onto Sea-Doo. Spawner God looking for the Frost Jaw. It does get grounded. Spawner God getting chunked down to 50%. Greg Plitt with the clutch NS though, topping him off. Both teams stabilizing.
Yeah, Smexen Channels just trying to get something rolling. Smexen trying to shut down the CC of Pilot and Spawner God X. If they do get crowd control, Smexen is doing his best to shut down the re-CC, which is key to him living. If Sea-Doo just sits the long CC chains, there's no way that Chanimals and Smexen are going to be able to survive. But this WLS already getting some pressure rolling right now. Greg Plitt's Nature's Vigil is going to fall off, so his Hots aren't going to be as strong. Getting shocked up there on his Entangling Roots by Sea-Doo. Sea-Doo doing an excellent job throwing out those interrupts when he can. That is the full Deep Freeze, though. Is Spawner God going to be able to get that sheep? Doesn't look like it. The Fear, though, coming in. Mass Reflect and Shadow Fear used to stop that sheep, but the Pilot able to just get that Fear out. But Pilot taking a lot of damage, as well as Greg Plitt, who just pushed in. Having to use that Bark Skin is going to be a lot of trouble. Yeah, it does have the Displace up to get away, but that was the Bark Skin and Displace. He does have Trinket, but falling behind a lot. Pilot down to 28% HP. This is the Dark Soul coming out from Chanimals at the moment, and this God Comp has to play defensive. They're just taking way too much damage at the moment.
Yeah, Channels was really patient. That was his first Dark Soul 2 minutes into this game, and he did get a lot of cooldowns for out of that. 2 trinkets, as well as Iron Bark and Bark Skin. So this second Dark Soul could be the game. A Fear landed onto Greg Plitt. Haunt is going to connect onto the Pilot, down to 30%. Now a Stormbolt onto Greg Plitt. Smexen going to switch over to him and start smashing him up. Fear's onto Spawner God to try and deny some Polymorphs coming in onto the DPS here. The second Dark Soul has been popped by Chanimals. He's looking to lock this game in. He's going to get silenced, though, on his cooldowns. Spawner God down to 20%. Almost into execute range. Defensive Deep Freeze had to come out onto Smexen to keep Spawner alive, and it will for now, but Greg Plitt already down to 50% mana.
Yeah, Sea-Doo getting the Storm there. It looks like he is going to get feared out of that, so that is the full Fear on Sea-Doo at the moment. Spawner God and the Pilot under immense amount of pressure right now, aren't able to get anything going. Greg Plitt getting swapped to having to use that Barskin once again in bear form, getting life gripped away. That life grip was very important there. Greg Plitt was going to be in a lot of trouble, but he's having such a hard time playing catch-up. This Warrior of Smexen and the Warlock coming out from Chanimals just having so much spread pressure on this team, and it's a nightmare for them to really heal. But it's up to them to push in and get the CC on Sea-Doo if they're going to go to get a kill. If they're not getting CC on Sea-Doo, they're not going to land a kill. There's just no way. Sea-Doo caught into the full Fear. Doesn't look like Spawner's going to be able to get too much follow-up. CS coming out from Chanimals onto that Polymorph. Now Sea-Doo's going to be completely fine at the pillar where Shaman should be. Spawner God has that Icy Veins up right now. Able to get the sheep on the Sea-Doo, so well done by him. Smexen taking a lot of damage. That is his recklessness. He's having to play defensive on it. He's on top of Sea-Doo in case Sea-Doo needs to link. The Deep Freeze coming out, though, onto Sea-Doo right now. He still has Trinket Link available if he needs it. Smexen and Rage Regeneration coming out in 2 seconds. He has his Trinket as well. The Triple Fear coming out. So this Godcomp actually doing quite the job pushing in onto Sea-Doo, getting the CC out. The Enrage Regeneration, though, coming out from Smexen, the pilot. Now, whenever this Godcomp pushes in and gets aggressive, they take way more damage than if they're playing safe. So there is a cost to them pushing in and getting this damage onto Sea-Doo, as they do get punished tremendously for it.
Yeah, you can see it in Greg Plitt's mana down to 3%, but Smexen dipping low. Sea-Doo just dropping the first link, going to be holding on to his trinket for later, but they're cutting even through the Spirit Link. Spawner God getting locked on his Polymorph, going for the Frost Jaw. It's going to land, but it was DR'd. Counterspell actually landed onto Greg Plitt. He's in trouble. The Heroic Leap Stormbolt onto Greg Plitt. He displaces away, narrowly escaping. Amplified Magic being used by Spawner God to help Greg Plitt catch up, and he's doing a good job so far, but he's got to get a drink off if he wants to stay in this game any longer. The pilot, though, is down to almost an execute range. He's going to disperse at 25%. And is on the retreat. Smexen, though, going after him into the Horrify, maybe overextending a bit into the full bash. He trinkets that immediately, charges over to Spawner. Wanted to stop that poly, wasn't able to. He's going to have to use the Die by the Sword to reduce the incoming damage. Spawner God, though, is dipping low, down to 7%, blocking, barely escaping an execute there. But Greg Plitt going for the drink. He's out of line of sight, getting quite a bit of mana. Actually, not getting any mana, 10%. And now the Bladestorm onto both of them. He might just get a double kill, down to 20%. The Barkskin's not going to be enough, and Smexen smashing hard here in first game.
Yeah, absolutely punishing Greg Plitt there for going for that drink. I mean, just swapping onto Pilot God, making sure that swapping onto Pilot, making sure he stayed low. He didn't have Disperse available, and Greg Plitt just, it was impossible for him to catch up at that point.
Man.
But, I mean, what choice do you have at that? I mean, you're completely, so it's either lose there or lose a little bit later. You kind of have to take a risk.
I just want to mention something. As Greg Plitt died, dampening started.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I felt like just looking at Greg Plitt's team and everyone just taking so much damage. I felt like we were like at 30% dampening at least. But there we go. That's game number 1, and it's explosive one at that, and it will go to Method. Taking a quick look at that damage board. And there we go. We're going to go ahead and jump into game number 2 here. Same composition for Method. They'll be running that WLS. I'm going to go ahead and ask Ready, Set, Go if what map they want to play next.
I really don't know what map helps them. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. You think the bigger maps are advantageous for them? It just seems like anytime they push in to get a kill, if they don't get the kill, it's just like they fall behind so bad.
Right.
Cannibals just has free reign. Once they're all stacked up and they're all taking dot damage and like they're pushing in to get that CC on the Sea-Doo and they don't have the CC on the DPS, they just slowly fall behind.
So they are going to go for like a less of a smaller or a bigger map. They're going to go for the in-between, the Tiger's Peak. Game number 2. Alright, welcome to Tiger's Peak, Method versus Ready, Set, Go. WLS versus Godcomp once again. Greg Plitt choosing to go with the Restoration Druid instead of the Holy Paladin. Ven, do you think this is a good choice? Do you think the Restoration Druid, like that cross CC, is what this team needs to go up against Method? Maybe the Hops might combat the dots of Chanimals more? Why do you think he went with the Druid instead of Paladin?
I don't know. He was Druid last game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know. I don't necessarily think Druid's better. I think having that Hodge offensively is really, really important. Maybe he's just more comfortable on Druid. Maybe this is a matchup they feel like they know pretty well, but I feel like the Paladin has a little bit more of an advantage. Sea-Doo, though, getting feared up right away by Pilot, who is getting hit really hard by Smexen. Greg Plitt caught into that Stormbolt. He might get feared out a bit. That is the Recklessness Bladestorm coming out from Smexen right away onto Pilot as well as Spawner God. So both of them taking tremendous amount of damage. Sea-Doo caught into the Frost Jaw as well as Sheep. Still not out of CC. But Smexen and Chanimals is completely fine as Pilot and Spawner God are having to play so defensive.
Yeah, Iron Bar coming out onto the pilot, still at 40%. Haunt's going to connect. Channel is looking to load the dots onto everyone else here shortly, fully dotting the entire team. Sea-Doo caught in a deep freeze right now. The Comet Storm coming through. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to land any more CC, though. Dark Soul being used by Channels very early on in this game, rotting down the team. The Nature's Vigil being used by Greg Plitt to answer it, increases healing to heal through that rot pressure. His team at 80%, but the Stormbolt out from Smexen onto Greg Plitt. SwannaGod dipping low. The Horrify onto Sea-Doo. He's going to get Shadow Fury to not be able to land the Fear, and now he's put Sea-Doo on Polymorph DR, putting them up very far ahead. And Channel's down to 20% into the bash and is going to die.
What in the world just happened?
I don't know. Something happened to Skype.
Something did happen to Skype there for just a brief moment. But
Channels just got exploded. That was insane.
What the heck? I'm looking back at that replay. Chanimals in that silence. Sea-Doo not in any or as he goes into the deep freeze, and Chanimals goes down in a DR bash as well. Crazy, crazy. Sea-Doo did have both of his links and the trinket available, just wasn't in position there. And ready, set, go. They're gonna make a series out of this, and they will tie it up 1-1. Boom. There it is, everybody.
That was a little bit of blunder, a little bit of a blunder coming out from Method. I mean, Chanimal's using his heals way too late for Sea-Doo, not using any cooldowns, and I just feel like maybe they got a little bit too comfortable last match, underestimating this team, and they got punished for it.
There you go, man. But now, that being said, Method did win the very first round of this best-of-3 series, so that means match point is going to be their map pick.
Yep. And I can almost guarantee you they're going to choose
Dalaran Sewers. Yeah.
Dalaran Sewers is just WLS.
Whoa! Okay. We're both about to be surprised, buddy.
What's going on?
The next map chosen by this WLS is going to be Tolvaron Arena.
Huh.
Interesting. We said it. We said Dalaran Sewers. I don't know. We'll see.
I really thought it would be Dalaran Sewers. That's like WLS's favorite thing in the universe.
It is, man. It is. See you guys in just one hot minute. All right, both teams still playing the same compositions. We have that God Comp versus WLS. Greg Plitt on the Restoration Druid, not on the Holy Paladin. But Ready, Set, Go is going to take a game off of Method, and it is currently tied 1-1. The next map, this map, is going to determine who is advancing and who is eliminated here in tournament number 19, guys.
Man, yes. Very, very tense matchup. This God Comp shows that they can put out a lot of damage at any time, so WLS has to be very careful, make sure they're not underusing cooldowns, not overusing cooldowns. They just have to make sure they use something when the burst is coming.
Yep, the pilot Spectral guysing in, looking to land an early Fear, much like last game, and he does land it. They're going to be able to CC chain off of it. Greg Plitt and SpannerGod looking to push off. The Polymorph is going to land full. Haunt coming out, though, from Chanimals onto the pilot, dipping down to 80%, and he's doing pretty well. Greg Plitt actually dispelling all of those dots off. Well-timed dispel there. The Heroic Leap Masterflight coming out from Spexen to try and deny some CC, but the Deep Freeze is going to land. They actually lock Spawner on Frost. He's going to land the 1-second poly. It's not going to be too big of a deal. Sea-Doo finally leaving CC, getting some heals rolling here. Wind Shearing the Frost Draw. Full hots onto Greg Plitt. He seems to be the primary choice for Smexen, but Smexen getting bashed here. They're looking to try and set something up, but there's no CC just yet. Sea-Doo gateways away from the Fear. Fortunately, though, the pilot did not fall for the bait and still has that available when he pushes in here for the next time. Looks like he wants to try and get the Fear. The Tremor comes down. The Polymorph is going to land. They snipe out the Tremor, and Sea-Doo's going to have to sit through these Polymorphs here. SpannerGod going for another one. Recklessness coming out, though. They interrupt it with the Shadow Fury, and Smexen putting this God Comp onto the back foot, down to 30% with the Stormbolt onto Greg Plitt. He's going to be having to disperse, and suddenly this aggressive push is costing them a lot of cooldowns.
Yeah, Spawner God, although he's on the back foot, he's doing an excellent job of shutting down C2's totems. He's killing them all the second they come up, so well done by him. But Pilot down to 26% HP. If he gets down to 20%, he could get executed. Catches a huge heal from Greg Plate, who does have that Vigil up, so his HOTS are going to be a little bit more powerful right now. But I don't know if it's going to be enough through this WLS. It's looking like he's sort of stabilized at the moment. Smexen is going on to Spawner God, and this God comp in full retreat at the moment. C2 still has every cooldown available for himself. If he needs it, and both teams are looking all right. Greg Plitt still has his trinket as well as Heart of the Wild if he needs it. Doesn't have NS. Notice Burst for a minute. Mage has 2 cooldowns, so both teams have a lot of cooldowns to work with. No clear advantage right now. C2 getting deep frozen up. Looks like they want to push in for that CC, but Smexen just pulling back with that Blade Storm, sitting on top of C2, and now the Pilot getting swapped to, taking some damage. He wants to push in for that fear. The disarm onto C2. It looks like he's going to get feared up, but Pilot down to 40% HP. Greg Plitt having a really hard time healing him up through this damage.
Yeah, he really is. But in the meantime, Smexen having to use that dive by the sword and regeneration, but a full fear landed on a Greg Plitt from Chanimals. Spawner got down to 45%. Now the Pilot getting NS'd by Greg Plitt. His mana doing fairly well this game. Spawner got going for some defensive polymorphs onto channels, dispelled immediately by Sea-Doo, locking it out with the Wind Shear now on the successive polymorph, switching over to Greg Plitt into the bear form. But now he gets bashed. Sea-Doo into the deep freeze. He gets Shadow Furied on his poly. He's going for it. He gets CS'd on the next polymorph, trying to Frost Jaw, but Sea-Doo's in a line of sight. The fear getting chased down by the Pilot, really wants to land. He puts the Tremor down. They kill the Tremor, land the full fear. Now Spawner God, though, taking the heat. The Horrify onto Smexen, down to 50%. Sea-Doo leaving the fear into a full polymorph clone onto Chanimals. He's going to unbound Will out of that, but full dots have been loaded up onto the entire God comp. Smexen just has to stay alive, down to 20%. Sea-Doo trinkets out of the half poly, connects the link to Smexen, keeping him alive here, but this God comp forcing the trinket out of Sea-Doo finally.
Yeah, and C2 wanted to make sure he actually got his link off this game. Has that Ascendance up right now. He's going to be able to top off his team quite nicely. Greg Plitt's mana might be an issue coming up here shortly, down to 35% already. Spawner God has that Icy Veins up, so he's going to be doing a little bit more damage. It's going to be easier for him to get out of that CC. But I really like what this God comp's doing. Spawner God is pushing in for the CC, and if he's not getting it, C2's getting feared, and then Spawner can get those polymorphs out of that. C2 once again getting feared up. Smexen could be in a little bit of trouble here, down to 60% HP. If Spawner God can get CC on a C2, this could be the game. The Deep Freeze coming out. Doesn't look like he's going to get polymorphed up, though. Spawner God getting feared up by Chanimals and Smexen, so well done by them. C2 needs to get to a pillar, needs to get away. Spawner God taking a lot of damage, has that Ironbark up, but he has to pull back in full retreat. Greg Plitt, mana doing pretty well, actually going up in mana during that exchange, so well done by him. Pilot getting low though, Spawner getting low. Greg Plitt has some catch up to do. C2 has that trinket coming up in 57 seconds. He does have Stone Form available for some of that CC if he gets caught in a silence or something, but other than that, it could be very scary for him very quickly.
Shadow Fury onto the polymorph out there, as well as the Master Reflect. A full fear landed onto Greg Plitt. He's going to trinket out of that, use the Nature's Vigil to answer the Dark Soul out from Chanimals. Trying to go for a Cyclone here, maybe trying to fake the counterspell out. He's not able to land the clone just yet, rolling the heals here, down to 29% mana, and we're not even in dampening. Spawner God feeling the heat, down to 40%. Smexen Smash down to 14%, and he's going to go down without blocking. And the double execute procs finishing him off, and Method taking the series 2-1.
Wow. There it is. Spawner God actually going to go down without blocking. Though, regardless of that play, that was an amazing series. I mean, both of these teams were pushing out so many defensive cooldowns out of each other, and that was looking really even. And we just hit 1% dampening, so I feel like the WLS was starting to get an advantage. But man, Spawner God's probably kicking himself right now. But it happens to the best of us. It really does, guys. And there's a lot on the line, and there's a lot of nerves that are going on. And I really hope to see this God Cub come back and compete, because they have done very well. But that means, guys, Method, Sea-Doo, Smexen, and Chanimals are going to advance to the semifinals.